From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, a show about Star Wars pop culture and the ultimate adventure, being happy for other people going to Star Wars Celebration. I'm Ken Knapsack.
I'm Jen Landa, and I'm happy for you.
I'm Joseph Scrimshaw, and I just have to be honest. I can't. We had to restart recording because there was a mild earthquake. We said a lot of really funny, charming things about Star Wars Celebration, and we're good enough actors that we could just repeat them again.
Yes, we could.
But it feels like a lie. Anyway, the point is, we're not in Star Wars Celebration. I'm at least in Hollywood, where I could feel the earthquake. Yeah. Anyway, but I am really happy. That's what we talked about when we started recording before, is being happy for the people who are headed to Celebration. And actually, that it is not a great time for me to have gone, so I wouldn't have enjoyed it. But I'm really, really glad to see other people having so much fun already. And I love every one of Alex Damon's pictures of Big Star Collider.
Yeah, indeed. I think maybe I'll see if the footage works. Maybe on Patreon we'll release the lost footage of Jen getting told of an earthquake, Joseph feeling it, and me not getting the notification I thought was set up with Shake Alerts LA. Why does everyone else know but not me?
Oh, no.
Exclusive content. That's content.
Star Wars Celebration and Earthquake FOMO in one short video.
Oh.
Yeah, the FOMO will be real for me, Star Wars Celebration, but you had mentioned it, Joseph. Yeah, it would have been a bad time for me to go. It would have been the whole time going, I shouldn't be here, and that's not fun. But I think released of that kind of reality, or release from that reality. I am enjoying Alex, Molly, Nikki Kumar, Maddie Gunner, Scotty, and Alden are getting there soon. A lot of folks we know are there or heading there, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Please keep your stories flowing. I feel like I'm there. I'm not there. I'm going to get there one day. Looks like a great region, great city to have a lot of fun travels in, but it's been fun to watch.
Yeah. As of now, I only have FOMO just because Japan is a place I've always wanted to visit. And so it's really hard to see. But I mean, you're right. It's not the right time. And I've actually really been enjoying Molly's stories. I was showing my daughter. I was like, look at this incredible place where she's staying. It's like in nature. My daughter, because we live in the big city, was like, what?
What is
trees
nature?
Everywhere? Exactly. She's like, what a dream. But so then anyways, yeah, I was like, you know what? We'll get there someday, kid. We'll get there. When mommy gets a job.
You can see a tree when mommy gets a job.
Oh, man. But, hey, big news will be coming out of Star Wars Celebration. We are going to be covering it, a big news wrap-up show live next Monday, the 21st, and then we're going to see what pops up during the weekend, if we can pop on in some fashion, though. Jen, I know you're out of town. It is spring break for a lot of schools during this week, so we are going to find our way through it as a ForceCenter team, so we'll be there somehow.
Yes.
Before we dive into the news, and before anything else starts shaking, we'll let you know, as always, today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles and growing to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. We are recommending Shadows of the Sith by Adam Christopher. Put a pin in that name. Download your free audiobook today by going to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Again, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for your free audiobook from Audible. To ask, Joseph, we are still building towards some goals.
Yes, absolutely. We are continuing to try to get a little bit higher on our old Patreon. Patreon is the number one way that helps us keep going, and we so appreciate the community that has been built up there over on our Discord to chat through things, and we pull all sorts of great questions from our patrons on Patreon as well. We're building to the goal of 430 paid patrons. We've been floating up and down between 410, 420 for a little while, and we would love to get up to 430 paid patrons, at which point we'll release an old classic episode of Star Wars Ranked with new visual excitement and put it up here on YouTube.
We will indeed. Also, not quite in close goal range, but we are in the general location of 10,000 subscribers on YouTube as well. So all of it building forward, moving forward. We appreciate you helping us on that. Life adventures. I actually have a good life adventure that's Star Wars related.
Ooh.
Right up your alley, Jen, I believe, and well, Joseph too, obviously, but it made me think of some of your work here on the channel, Deb. I'm doing a little 1 week writing job for a great YouTube channel called The Drive, all about cars, race cars, motorsports, car culture, all that kind of stuff. Not something I'm particularly attached to, but it's fun to kind of write and learn about new worlds. So I was doing a project about the celebrity races they used to have at the Grand Prix of Long Beach for a very long time, 75 to 2016. And one of what might be considered the most dramatic crash. There was a few, some with a car catching on fire. Grant Show hurt his face at the height of his Melrose Place fame. The greatest crash that is the most dramatic is in 2007, George Lucas, when he drove the race. I kind of forgot he had done that. I kind of back of my head, I remember seeing pictures of him in a race car outfit. But yeah, he's, of course, as you have covered on Jedi Beat here, Jen, and Happy Beeps, George, we know, famously survived an accident, survived death at 18. But here he is again. He goes for a daring passing maneuver, hits the car in front of him, spins both cars. George goes butt end into the tire barrier, and then the other car spins and hits him head on. And it's pretty dramatic. George walked away. George Lucas. George Walton Lucas, race car driver. Fun Star Wars crashing into my other work this weekend.
And somehow Rats Tyrell died again, right?
Yes. Yes.
Boy.
Yeah. It made me think of the pod race. They just and we talked last week of George and the racing and cars and how it shows up, not just in his work, but it continues to be a key part of Star Wars. We had that conversation on Star Wars Rank. So good stuff. Anyway, so glad you're safe, George. Maybe, I think finally now you're out of race cars. Jen, anything for you?
I have decided for May the 4th that my family, we're going to not cosplay. That's not accurate. We're going to dress up in costumes, makeshift costumes, costume bounding for the Phantom Menace. So my daughter, my youngest, wants to be Queen Amidala. I have been searching. This is the thing about the prequels, you guys, is there's really not an easy way to make these costumes, right? Like Han Solo, that's no problem. I can go to the thrift store and get some stuff, right? Queen Amidala? Like, I was looking at how to make the headdress. Scrap that. So I'm trying to find what are the vintage costumes. It's impossible to find for her. My older daughter is going to be a handmaiden, and I found a used Her Universe one. So it's like a hoodie. Because I was like, how about if I make you a robe? She's like, I'm not going to wear like that kind of costume. So I was like, all right, here. Ashley Eckstein is genius at this. Here is this handmaiden thing. She's going to do that. Gotta figure out my husband. Maybe he'll be Darth Maul. I don't know. We'll see what. And I'm going to be Jar Jar. So, yeah, I'm trying to figure out. I found a template for a Jar Jar hat. And here's the thing, you guys. Like, how cringe do I want to be? I know I'm going to embarrass my kids. But, like, I saw a guy with a blue milk. Like, he was dressed up as blue milk. And I loved it last year. So I'm like, just go for it. Embrace the cringe. Right?
Yeah. I think you should try to dress up not even as Jar Jar, but as Ahmed Best performing Jar Jar with like the fake head and the cool glasses.
Yeah. Wait, that's actually because I'm doing like on the bottom, I'm kind of doing just like a regular outfit, like giving the essence of Jar Jar. But now we're talking. That actually might be easier to make.
Could your husband then do the Qui-Gon Liam Neeson with the Oakley shades?
Oh my gosh! Shoot. I need more time.
You just one of your daughters has to be Rick McCallum. And we're all set.
Yeah, just needs to swear a lot, and there you go. That's Rick McCallum.
Johnson
verbal cosplay.
Just get an old office phone from the mid-90s and just have her slam it down with enthusiasm.
That's hilarious.
Where's your family going?
I think we're gonna go to the Academy Museum.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Are they doing a May the 4th event?
They are. They're doing, they have Phantom Menace. They also have, I don't know if they have, I think Empire later in the day. And then I think that they have Rise of Skywalker at night.
Okay. Nice.
I think I'm going to that.
You are? Which one?
Rise of Skywalker.
Oh, you're going to Rise of Skywalker?
Yeah. Nikki Kubar from Imperial Senate and Alden Diaz is in town. And I got a message of, you're going to this. Ticket purchased. And I went, okay. So, all right, I'll run into you there. I'll see you.
Have you haven't been to the Academy Museum yet, have you?
I have not.
Oh.
Excited.
You're in for a treat.
Excited now that I remember.
Yeah,
Wait,
that theater's.
do I have to dress up as something?
You should. I mean,
Okay.
there's a handful of people that dressed up, but why not?
Okay.
That's what I say.
All right. I'll figure it
Embrace
out.
the cringe.
I'll dress up as J.J. Abrams.
Yeah. Yes.
Perfect adventure. You're getting ready for your adventures, Jen.
Yeah.
There
So
you go.
that's that.
Yeah, that's deep Star Wars adventuring.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. Joseph, I know you've been locked away editing, but Star Adventures.
Yeah.
Star Wars Adventures.
Mostly locked away. My wife and I went to 2 of our local record stores, one being Amoeba for Record Store Day, which is great. Didn't get anything Star Wars related, but it feels Star Wars related because, Star Wars has all those nice themes about, like community and connection and
Mhm.
joy in times of fear. And man, people were Amoeba was packed and people were so happy. And man, it was that was fantastic. Instead of touch grass, it was like touch vinyl in order to be
Oh, yeah.
reconnected to the physical world and to community. The only real Star Wars adventure I had, I keep looking at and coveting different action figures because I'm trying to not to buy as many, but I did pre-order Asajj Ventress. And I don't think it's been officially announced, but it's been leaked that on May 4th, they're putting out, the Disney store is putting out another one of those Droid Depot collection of 3 3/4 action figures. This set, they're always themed on a show. In this set is Book of Boba Fett, and it is going to include the long wanted and beloved by me and many other people, drummer astromech droid from Book of Boba Fett. So finally, and there's going to be like, $60 or whatever. But I'll pay that for one action figure and open him probably.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Mm-hmm.
When a character is, like I said, many people love the character, but when a character is built for you, you have to celebrate that. You have to celebrate that and take it out of the droid.
Yeah, fantastic. So future Star Wars adventures for May 4th for me.
Indeed. For all of us, I suppose. We're going to look at some Star Wars news. Joseph, you can take us through a couple of the tidbits out ahead of Star Wars Celebration.
That is right. The biggest news and the most interesting news to me is maybe not even going to happen, but I love talking about it anyway. This is the text of this is pulled from Star Wars Newsnet. This is a story based on a couple of sentences mumbled by Tony Gilroy, who may or may not know what he's talking about. Welcome to Star Wars News. Anyway, this is what how Star Wars Newsnet wrote up the story. Andor showrunner Tony Gilroy, speaking at an Andor Season 2 event in London, indicated that Disney is working on a Star Wars horror project. Gilroy was asked to follow up to a quote he gave back in March to SFX magazine, saying he'd like to see, quote, a 3-camera sitcom in Star Wars or a horror movie. In London on Thursday, Business Insider asked if he would do a Star Wars horror project. His response, they're doing that. I think they're doing that. I think that's in the works. Yeah.
What?
Wow. Paraphrasing now, he went on to say, like, I hope that Andor continues to be successful, and I hope our show can do what Mandalorian did for us and make other shows and other perspectives on Star Wars possible. So it continues to be on that goodwill tour to go, hey, Star Wars is a family, and one show's success is good for getting different styles. If you want different styles of Star Wars, all shows being successful will help to promote that. So let's just get into the quote in context. This is, of course, not an official announcement. Official announcements don't usually read like a Paul McCartney song. I think that's in the works. Yeah. This is not an official announcement. Ken, what do you think the level of possibility is? Like Tony Gilroy does know the inside scoop of what may or may not be in development. So what do you think about this quote?
It just needs a Denny Lane guitar solo. Absolutely, it's a great Wing song. I love this. I think it's true. Obviously true from a certain point of view. Meaning, I'm sure it's on the board, and we talk about the possibilities. This is one of my favorite moments in Star Wars press in a while, of just like it lost in his head. You go. I read the clip. I got to admit I didn't watch it, but just the idea of just like him kind of like. Oh wait, yeah, no, they're doing that. Ah, damn it! But I don't think he cares. Yeah, I think it's makes a lot of sense. It just makes a lot of sense. And I know we might mention Mike Flanagan a couple years ago posted online. I'd love Star Wars. Let me do a horror thing. It just makes a lot of sense, especially in this post Andor, actually just the post streaming world where we can get different styles.
Mm-hmm. Jennifer, how do you feel about this quote? Do you believe that something might be in development?
Yeah, I believe it is in development. I believe it is in the works, as Tony Gilroy said. But after the Ray thing, I don't want to say I'm burned, but I'm just like, that to me seemed like such a sure project. And yet we really have not gotten any new development on that recently. We don't know if it's going to ever get made or what's going on. Maybe it will. So I'm just like, ah, ugh. It's anything can happen at this point. Anything. But maybe if the
Mm-hmm.
right creator comes along and is motivated and can bring it under like a cheap budget, it could happen fast.
Mm.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah, I tend to think that Tony Gilroy is aware of the kind of conversations and projects being developed, and I think this person is on Tony Gilroy is on a grueling interview circuit, and this probably kind of slipped out as a natural response to a question.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's so important to always remember that in development means they are literally developing the project. Maybe somebody's writing a script and they're considering if they're going to make it. That does not, because something's in the works. If Mike Flanagan could have a contract with Lucasfilm, be writing a script, that still doesn't mean they're going to make it. That's what
Yeah.
in development means. And I think a lot of outlets don't clarify that because it's better clickbait to go Star Wars horror project confirmed by Tony Gilroy coming soon.
mm,
It is not as exciting as
mm.
somebody's working on a script and they might make it. I always think of it as the difference between like married and dating. Like your friends, like, well,
Hmm.
Chuck and Terry went on, they're getting married. And you're like, what? They went on one date.
Mm.
They're considering getting married. They're checking it out to see
Yeah.
if that's something they might be interested in 3 years.
Mm.
So I believe that Star Wars and horror are dating, and that something's in development. And I think Mike Flanagan is a really good guess. In particular, he's got
Yeah.
this new film coming out, The Life of Chuck,
Yeah.
based on a Stephen King novella,
Ooh.
which is a drama starring Tom Hiddleston and Mark Hamill. And
Right.
it's already got
Ooh.
like Oscar buzz that it's that kind of film.
Cool.
So I think Mike Flanagan, it makes a lot of sense that he would have something in development. No guarantee that means it's going to happen, but it's really fun to talk about it.
Yeah.
So Ken,
Mm.
what form would you like a Star Wars horror project to take? Would you want it to be a film, a live action television show, an animated Halloween special? What would you want?
All those work. The animated special is interesting, and I know Legos play with it, but something that's a little
Mhm.
more canon and a little more developed, I guess. A TV show seems right for me, or at least maybe a film on streaming. I don't want to relegate everything to streaming. It just seems like a good way to try this out. But if you're going to put a lot of time and money and names behind it, maybe you just you get it in the theater. You also have just made me think about, okay, what if Mike Flanagan, who's now worked with Mark Hamill twice, gives us the haunting of Luke Skywalker when he moves to Octo Island, fighting Sith ghosts down below and his Jedi ghosts above. That could be interesting. But I think that would be an appropriate spot for it, streaming, to really let it get its legs.
Mm-hmm. Jennifer, how about you? How would you like horror to present itself in Star Wars?
No more animated Halloween specials. I'm sorry. I think it's really we have enough. I think it's cute, but like give the
Yeah.
people what they want, right?
Yes.
We've been talking about this for a while. For me, ever since Death Troopers, the book came out,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and I think they've made it very clear. Kathleen Kennedy and I think even Bob Iger have said that they want to make Star Wars in the movie theater a very special thing. To me, that means like kind of appealing to a broader audience, maybe younger audience
Mhm.
of all ages, right?
Mhm.
However, you can have a lot of fun with Disney Plus streaming, catering to maybe an teenage and above audience. People would want to subscribe to this. You could get a lot of new subscribers being like, this is the first Star Wars horror project. You have somebody like Mike Flanagan attached. Oh my gosh. Bring Mark Hamill in. What? Come on. It's a hit. Oh my gosh. I get excited when I think about this. But no more animated specials. Give us live
Mhm.
action.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. Ken?
No, I agree with that, Jen, too. If you're gonna, and the Gilroy thing makes it a little more interesting now that that's out there. But if just say they said we are doing an announcement, we're doing Star Wars horror, and it is a little tiny, kind of quirky,
Mm.
Lego adjacent or just an animated thing. And again, we always say animated is not less than around these parts, but just
No.
it would feel like, I thought it was going to be like the House on Haunted Hill or Hill House Haunting of Mike Flanagan's Dreams. I don't know, but like it would seem like, oh, you didn't really do it.
Yeah.
Right.
The Haunting of Hill House. But there's House on Haunted Hill. So hills, haunting, houses,
And hills have eyes occasionally.
and hills have eyes, and
And the
houses
House of
have eyes.
Usher, right? The House
Yeah.
of Usher. Did he do that? Was that him?
Yes,
the
he
show,
did that.
right?
Yes,
Yeah,
he
yeah,
did the
that was a
Haunting
good
of
one.
the House of Usher on the Hill.
That's it. Wait, what?
Uh,
I watched one of them.
Yes, you did the Haunting of Hill House, the Haunting of Bly Manor, Midnight Mass, which is my favorite, and as well as House of Usher and
That's
the
one.
Midnight Club.
Okay.
So he's done a lot of television
Yeah.
designed for streaming that has
Mhm.
been extremely well received. So I think that is one of the reasons that
Mhm.
seems good for me. I think my main thing that I want is I would love for them to do a full horror project. I have opinions like both of you about the medium, but more than anything, I want it to be horror through the Star Wars lens. But I don't want it to just be sort of like horror tinged, because as as people will say, there is a ton of horror in Star Wars.
Mhm.
But to me, it's always nibbled around the edges. It's in publishing, like the old Death Troopers novel, or like Kevin Scott's Tales from Vader's Castle, which has gone on, or else
Yeah.
it's just an element in existing things, like the Brainworms arc on the Clone Wars, or the
Mhm.
Night Sisters in general, and the Night Troopers
Mhm.
combined with the Night Sisters in Ahsoka, the Stranger floating down like Dracula, and all of his vibes are horror. Palpatine's lair on Exegol and that whole mad scientist unnatural scene at the beginning of Rise of Skywalker. Those things always come up when we talk about horror in Star Wars. And so to me, it isn't like there's not horror in Star Wars. It's that there hasn't been a project where like that's the main goal is to do a full-on horror Star Wars project. So I want something that is all in. That's the point. Is the most important thing to me. A film would be great, but it is crowded, and it's particularly weird because horror is successful in movie theaters, not only because there's a really dedicated audience for it, but because the budget is low. But the budget for a Star Wars horror movie probably isn't going to be low. And I think, Jennifer, your point about the audience not necessarily being a 4-quadrant film is great. So I think a Disney Plus live action television show would be great. I think Mike Flanagan's, even if it isn't Mike Flanagan, I think all of the shows that he's done for Netflix work well in a way that would work well for Star Wars, because they're all slow burn and they're character focused. Like there's super scary stuff and there's super violent stuff, but it is so, I think, the way a Star Wars horror film would need to be. It isn't about like, wow, that's the most brutal Sith kill you've ever seen. The way sometimes that's the fun of maybe a slasher film sometimes. But all of Flanagan's shows are so character focused, and I think that's what would really make it a Star Wars horror movie sing.
It's
Or
not
horror story.
It's not Saw, right? Unless
Yeah,
it's
right.
just a series about Saw Gerrera and he's doing horrible things, but that's
It
different.
could be. It could
Yeah.
be.
Could be.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Besides just like the desire to have Star Wars explore lots of different genres, what's the value of combining horror and Star Wars to you, Ken? And I know you have a mixed at best relationship with horror. So why are you excited about it? Why do you think it has value to combine the two?
To mine that psychological thriller landscape, but to do it, like you said, fully commit to the idea. And we keep saying the Mike Flanagan name because he's on the top of the charts right now, and he's expressed an interest. But you're right, there's so many other creators all around the world that could probably bring in something that is of value. But I get scared easily. I'm a jump scare kid. I grew up literally around the corner from Elm Street. That did not go well for me in the '80s when you're already a kid. peed my sleeping bag when we watched Silver
Oh,
Bullet at a friend's slumber party. It was a bad 80s for little Kenny, because they made it impossible for me to get up and go to the bathroom, because if you went in the bathroom, Bloody Mary was there and she was going to kill you. It was a bad night. So I've worked through all that, but the times that I have, or have I, the times that I have, sat and watched something that is both horror, but like you said, character based, and I don't know your thoughts on it, but like the Mist, the film version of that with Thomas Jane and everything. Like, I really did love that. That really worked for me when I was literally forced to watch it in a past relationship. You're gonna watch this, and got through it. And shout out Sam Witwer's in there too, of course. If it's something like that in Star Wars, it would be so effective because of what you said. Horror is so much more than the jump scares. I know everyone knows that, but to explore that kind of thing in Star Wars, I don't even know where you go. You met witches, Sith, Force ghosts. Even I don't think Force ghosts are doing the haunting, but there's a lot of ways to explore the supernatural and the minds in Star Wars.
Yeah. I don't think. Yeah, I mean, certainly we have spirits clinging on naturally life, like Momin, and many other stories like that. But it is amusing to me of like Obi-Wan Kenobi communing with the Force. Like, I want to retain my existence, my sentience in the afterlife, so that I can help Luke Skywalker. Every once in a while, just freak out a Jawa on Tatooine. Yeah. Like that's all I want.
Get back at Tika.
That would be funny. Boo, boo there. Yeah,
boo there.
Boo there. Jennifer, you like more horror than Ken, right?
No, I really don't. I'm terrified. I can't watch. You guys remember how I felt about the stupid zombie VR, which I still am traumatized by. I can't turn off the lights when I'm in the dark. I have to wait till. It's horrible.
No.
It's horrible.
Oh no.
Horrible. I've never seen Nightmare on Elm Street. I've never seen any horror of the classic horror films. The only Stephen King one I've seen is Carrie. That's it. I will refuse to watch any of them. My sister, in contrast, loves horror films. She's seen all of them. I'm like, why? And she says, I don't know, it's thrilling. Maybe it helps work through trauma. I don't know. The reason why I like Star Wars tackling this is Star Wars is going to keep me safe. It's going to give me just enough to make me feel the thrill of being scared, but not so much that I'm going to have nightmares at night or be scared to walk in the dark. Like in Empire Strikes Back with the Minox, right? That jump scare is perfect. That's the right level, right? I feel like the Acolyte with the Stranger, oh my God, there were some really terrifying things. Or Rise of Skywalker with Dark Ray. Oh my gosh, like I can't even watch it. I literally had to close my eyes because I was scared to see that. So I feel like if Star Wars is going to do it, it's going to be right enough for scaredy cats like me.
Obviously there's all sorts of different genres of horror and different opinions about horror, but there is this sort of the jump scare, which Rise of Skywalker Dark Ray is a literal jump scare of there's it's quick, there's a literal boom to go with it, all that. So there's jump scares, but there's also the creeping dread.
Right.
How do you, if Star Wars made a horror project and like Mike Flanagan's great films or great shows, he introduces you to characters, he makes you care about them, and something in the place that they're in is wrong, and it's slow burn, and the jump scare is only effective because you've been feeling dread for 15 minutes to an hour. If Star Wars really did a horror project, it could just be jump scares, but I don't think it'd be really effective. It would have to be the slow burn sense of dread. How do you feel about that, Jennifer?
I'm just thinking now, I actually stopped watching The House of Usher. I really liked it, and it started to get a little bit too scary for me because I was more invested in the characters. Now that I think about it, maybe I don't want a Star Wars horror movie show. I don't know. This is terrible.
Sorry.
I don't know. I mean, that's the thing, is that there is a culture around it, and it is an art form, and like, what approach would they take? I can't imagine. That's why let Mike Flanagan do it. But it will be interesting to see how scary they go. I don't know.
I think if they advertise, I think if they just say, hey, we're doing this show, and it's about as many people have suggested. I'm not saying anything new. A group of Padawans in a Sith temple or whatever, and they announce it, and like it's a Star Wars story. That's fine. If they make a big production of, we've hired Mike Flanagan or Nia DaCosta or Jordan Peele, or we've hired a master of horror, and we're doing it. Here's the horror Star Wars. If they say that, and that's the way they advertise it, I do think they need to deliver. I think they need it to be truly terrifying, not a Star Wars story with a few jump scares.
Right.
And to me, there are different kinds of horror. There are styles of horror where, like, I think many slashers are deep and psychological. The first Halloween is incredibly psychological, which is why I love it. I think the Scream films are psychological. So it's not that I don't think slasher films are psychological, but one thing that some of the fans like as well is a game of how gory can you get, how crazy can you get with the gore, how creative can you get with the kills. I don't care about Star Wars doing that. I don't think Star Wars needs to do that element of horror for myself. But I think it needs to really dive into what animates a lot of horror, which I think works really well with Star Wars, which is the fear versus hope dichotomy in Star Wars. And I think that's the way a lot of horror films function. You like take something like Halloween, the original Halloween. It's, Michael Myers is this terrible, unknowable. You don't know why. You can't understand him. He just wants to kill, and he just locks onto Laurie Strode for no known reason in the first film. That's part of what's terrifying about it, is like, why Laurie? Just fate? Fans get to discuss it for years. Sequels go on to give you a reason. But if you just look at that first film, it is just about raw fear. And I think what's powerful about horror was often powerful about the final girl trope, why people find such strength in Laurie Strode or Sidney Prescott in the Scream films, is the person who survives all the horror. They're the hope. They're the, like, there's no reason when you're going through all of this absolute hell and dread and people trying to kill you left and right for no reason and forced to face your own worst nightmares and fears. There's no reason you should still be hopeful, but by surviving to the end of it, that is hope. And a lot of Star Wars stories are structured that way. Like Rogue One is basically a horror movie. Like everything's as bad as it can be. Most of you aren't going to survive, but at the end there will be hope. And I think there's a lot of other trappings to horror, but I think that's the ultimate recipe of horror. Of it is thrilling to revel in the darkness, to watch a Sith brutally murder people, but what gives it its power is that the heroes who hold on to their hope and survive and deal with their trauma.
Perfect for Star Wars. I mean, it is perfect for Star Wars. The marketing of it would be interesting, and what it would do to folks like Jen and I. It'd be like, I don't know. I squint when I watch Large Marge and Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I don't know about this. But I'm also thinking of Skeleton Crew, and what comes out of the marketing of that is it's Amblin, it's ET meets Star Wars, all true, and they leaned into it. But that could stop some people at the gate, right? Like, I don't know about that. I have a view of Star Wars, so. I've always, when I hear the idea of, hey, a Star Wars horror show film, even the books like Death Troopers, I'm always like, I don't know. I don't need that. I need it all to be part of the Star Wars stew, because that word, that title, horror film, keeps me at the gate, which is not always, that's not the right way for me to look at it. It could be so much more. Again, sat down, watched Mist, and I was just, and then they shoots him in the car. Like it worked. It was so effective for me. So everything you're talking about, Joseph, lean into it, find a way to pull in the scaredy cats, the longtime Star Wars scaredy cats. Jen will be okay, maybe.
Yeah. I think about, like, I love The Walking Dead, The Last of Us, and I would never say that those shows are like horror, right? But there's a lot of horrible things. I actually had to stop I kind of fell off The Walking Dead after what they did to Glenn. It was so disturbing and graphic. I almost threw up. Like, it was really bad. And to me, I was like, I don't like my things to get that, especially when I'm so invested in the characters. And it was just so gruesome. I feel like Star Wars can't go that route, but I do feel like the earlier parts of The Walking Dead or The Last of Us, which really is about the relationships, right? And then, of course, all the fun of the zombies. So what I'm saying is Star Wars zombies could be okay. I could handle that.
That's Jen's level.
Yeah.
Jen's negotiating live with her own Star Wars horror feelings. Like, I can go to zombies and I stop there. Yeah. I think, for me, without any talking about any specific pitches, I think exploration of the dark side in the Sith. I love the flavor of the way the stranger was introduced and his vibe. People always want Sith stories, and I feel like we have Sith stories where we understand what caused the people to make bad choices. That's Anakin's story. That's Ben Solo's story. It's Asajj Ventress's story, and we'll get more of that. If somebody wants to tell a Sith story, I don't want it to be. I want to break from making it sympathetic or trying to understand their perspective. To me, the Sith's perspective is something horrible happened and they made a really bad choice and they're inflicting their pain on other people and not solving any problems. What's really interesting to me is the whole idea that the dark side is unnatural. Like, some amount of dark side, like death and pain and fear, those are all real and we have to deal with them. But you get somebody like Palpatine who's like, no, everything should be death and fear and pain all the time. That's unnatural. A horror movie is a great way to explore the Sith. It's not about making them sympathetic or apologizing for them. They're monsters, and let them be monsters, and let some amazing Star Wars final girl survive them and beat them.
Yeah. Oh, I do think it would. I think it'd be really popular too. Whatever they, we're from one sentence from Tony Gilroy, we've already signed Mike Flanagan and Jordan Peele to a deal. They're both there. Nia DaCosta's there as well. Great names you pulled in. But I do think it would be very well received because I think there's a lot of crossover in the fandoms.
Yes. Apologies for having more opinions. I was up until 2 a.m. literally editing my own horror film and disturbed myself last night, which has only happened a couple of times. But so it's on my mind. Anyway, so a lot of horror stories are built not just on fear versus hope or one person or character's fear, but on deep personal cultural anxieties. There's a great book. It's a little dated, called The Monster Show by David J. Scull that I read recently. It kind of walks through the history of cinematic horror for the most part, and really talks about the things going on in the world that impacted people's need to process things. Like, there's a lot of early horror films that are about some kind of bodily disfigurement or the fear of it, because the world had seen and experienced that on a level they never had before with the trauma of World War I and what was physically done to people's bodies. And so it starts from there and kind of goes on and talks about how, horror stories are often dealing with a larger cultural anxiety. So, Jennifer, what do you think the characters in Star Wars have large cultural anxiety about to make a horror movie about?
I would say, obviously, fascism is the easiest thing to address, but really, like the evil within, like you're talking about with the Sith, of maybe somebody who's conflicted, who has these feelings and doesn't know what to do with them, but they're also angry. Like, do they give into that monster? That's why I'm still upset about Guillermo del Toro's project. Because talk about, he was engaged with Star Wars, basically. He wasn't even dating. He was engaged, and we lost that Top of the Hut project. But he's the type of person that could do a great, I don't know about horror, but exploring, the monster versus the normies. I always love his perspective on that. But yeah, I guess probably a more personal story would be, because we have a lot of fascism in Star Wars already. We're going to be getting a lot of it with Andor and stuff like that. So maybe tackle something more personal.
Ken, how do you feel? What kind of anxieties do you think the culture or the characters have in Star Wars?
Survival, identity, control of your own bodies and futures and directions and safeties and also we've just also signed Guillermo del Toro to a deal too. We've got four great creators signed to horror deals today for Star Wars. But yeah, that kind of thing within the what's going on in the Star Wars world. If it's set within the reign of the Empire, it could be about losing your agency or losing those around you and who can you trust. I think one of the great horror lines in Star Wars never made it to the film. It's Saw talking to Jin in the trailer, or at least over the images of Jin, of who will you become. That line. What I'm saying is Saw Gerrera has to be involved in a Star Wars horror film because he's scary. But you know what I mean? Just your own survival. You talk about the Final Girl trope, but that would work all wrapped in that. But just that's the zombie thing, right? That who you losing to it, who you losing to. Jen's evil from within idea could work for me.
Yeah, no, I love all those. I think loss of control is something that Star Wars has played with, and I think that was one of the things that gave Acolyte a nice sense of dread of feeling like the Jedi that we're spending time with are at risk of losing control. I think the stranger and Soul both kind of the danger of Soul tipping into where the stranger is, but I think Jedi need to deal with their dark side because otherwise they will get too tight trying to hold on to it. So I think a fear of loss of control in Jedi, and also that was also a thing I think that was so powerful with the way Saul looked at the stranger is your existence destroys my worldview. You're like, what if I'm wrong to believe in hope? Because look at this. There's even that one tiny shot in Phantom Menace where Qui-Gon kind of recoils from Darth Maul. Like he's just like, God, you're gross. God, you're awful. Your existence is awful. It's loss of control. I think the big cultural thing, it'd be very interesting to me of just sort of like a total fear of it's going to happen again, because Star Wars seems to be in cycles of war of what do you do with that large cultural anxiety of like, I don't feel like it can ever be at peace. Like this village can't trust that everything will go back to normal because some other war is going to come through here.
Yeah.
Anyway, lots of fun stuff to explore. Any final thoughts on horror in Star Wars, Ken?
I think it will happen one day. I know the genre stew is a key part of Star Wars, but you just hear more and more. And I do credit Andor in a way, especially around town. I heard someone at a party say, "Oh, I pitched Lucasfilm on a medical drama," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that could work." I grew up watching MASH. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that in Star Wars. Like this will start to happen at some point. And I think horror is the natural first through the gate genre to just have its own thing.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts from you, Jen?
I'd like a Star Wars Goosebumps. That's my speed.
Star Wars Sweet Pickles?
Star Wars Sweet Pickles. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think it'll be great. And I think like you guys are saying, there is definitely a hardcore audience for both, obviously. And why not bring them together in the Venn diagram?
Yeah, very exciting. Very exciting. Look forward to the announcement of the levitating dead or whatever they're going to do. So moving on to something that's only kind of related. There's been a bunch of publishing announcements ahead of Star Wars Celebration. Lucasfilm announced a wide range of new books. We're going to talk about a bunch of them, but we'll start with the big one, a new Darth Vader novel written by Shadow of the Sith author Adam Christopher called Master of Evil. The book is called Master of Evil, not Adam Christopher, who's a very nice guy. The book features a creepy, surreal cover of Vader's mask with Anakin's face bleeding through and strange tendrils creeping about. The official description of the book is this: from comic runs to Star Wars Rebels, we've had a chance to see what Darth Vader was up to after the events of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. But just how dark is Vader's pre-Star Wars A New Hope journey? The newly announced Star Wars Master of Evil by Adam Christopher chronicles Vader's haunting pursuit for the power to conquer death. Jen, how do you feel about following up on Vader's pursuit to conquer death?
I don't know. I feel like we've covered this ground a lot, but I say that, and then I saw the cover, and I'm like, ooh, this feels different. This feels new. I don't know why. Maybe it's the cover is quite scary looking.
Hmm.
I think I'm still listening to the audiobook of Shadow of the Sith, I believe. I haven't
Hmm.
finished it. It's really good. It's really fascinating. I have no doubt that Adam Christopher is going to tell a compelling story. Yeah. I don't know. What do you guys think? Pass it to you.
Yeah. Ken, the Charles Soule Vader comic run had Vader explicitly working to bring
Hmm.
Padme back from the dead.
Hmm.
Oh.
Um, but this seems to be hinting at something larger about
Yeah.
Vader wanting to, as he promised Padme he would, become so powerful that he
Mm.
could even stop people from dying. It's what Palpatine promised, that they'd sit down and work together on figuring out.
Mm.
Yeah.
And it seems like Palpatine's been an absent father in that task. They aren't sitting down together to work on this.
Mm.
So there has been storytelling nibbling around this. How do you feel about going forward in a big way, and what's there to explore?
I think this is the way to do it in terms of a big way. I'm intrigued by some of Adam Christopher's writing. It's great. Shadows of the Sith is great. There's some stuff in there specifically around Anakin and conversations with Luke and everything, and that I'm like, oh yeah, you have an angle on this. You have an idea on this Anakin Skywalker person buried inside that Darth Vader prison. So let's explore it. You're right, Jen. We have covered a lot of this ground. Some of it tremendously successful and works for me. The Charles Soule stuff, the last Vader run had some moments, but I have to admit I peeled off of it. And I hear a lot. I hear a lot in conversations with even pretty dedicated Star Wars fans. We've covered Vader a lot. But I think if you're going to do it, this is the way. Really, truly get inside that tortured soul. I can't remember the last time we've had a novel focused on Vader or with him being one of the primary characters. I mean, like
Lords of the
Lords of the Sith, right? Which is
Yeah, in like 2015,
yeah,
2016
Paul S. Kemp, and
release date.
it's one of my favorites. It's still
Hmm.
Yeah,
I
that's
have
a good
moments
one.
that I remember that just the snips line is still so interested in him having those memories. So like any good book, you're gonna have a chance to get inside the characters' heads more than any other genre, including comic books. Though you can, and we have. But I think that's a good springboard. This is the way to do it. I'm definitely intrigued. Adam Christopher's Shadow Sith definitely gives me confidence that we'll have a great Vader entry into the story of Vader.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Shadow of the Sith, and I think a lot of times when fans talk about it, they really focus on all of the sort of connections and
Mm-hmm.
clarifications for things in Rise of Skywalker, spending quality time with Rey's parents.
Yeah.
But the whole kind of actual plot that's motivating Luke is good, haunty Sith stuff.
Yeah,
So
truly.
I think that this will be a good the Sith as a horror story type novel.
Mm-hmm.
That's certainly what the cover looks like,
Mm-hmm.
and the description is a haunting pursuit. I think what I'm interested in is how it interacts with the storytelling that's already been done about Vader trying to resurrect Padme in particular.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be just really interested in more that he is obsessed with. This is what I thought the ultimate power would be, to be
Right.
the most powerful person, most powerful Jedi ever, to me, was to be able to control life and death. And then that's the specific hook that was promised to me by Palpatine.
Mm-hmm.
That it seems interesting to me that he would want to say, hey, I made this deal in order to get this power, and damn it, I'm getting that power, and be just sort of obsessed with the idea of being a Sith is all about dominating, and it's like I need to dominate the idea of life and death. And I feel like a
Mm-hmm.
novel where we can go inside his head is great, and I think a novel can also really pull out the contrast and the painful irony that whatever Vader does or doesn't accomplish in this book, he's still going to be on the Death Star with his foot tapping on Obi-Wan Kenobi's robes,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
going WTF,
Mm-hmm.
and once again being beat out by his wise master.
Mm-hmm.
It's I think there's something really powerful and tragic in that he's going after something that you're not going to ever achieve it this way.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, despite a crowded field for Vader storytelling, even when new stuff pops up, thinking of the Kenobi series, right? How that moved and affected a lot of Star Wars fans
Hmm.
to have that moment with him, the mask half off, everything. So I think it's great. I do, we're fans of the idea that Vader, the most powerful warrior in the galaxy, marches down hallways and never gets what he wants. So maybe that's what every chapter ends, is his march down a hallway, figurative or literal, and it ends with him just going, dang it, and just he has to
Sad
deal with
Vader
it.
meme.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Uh,
mm.
so, what do we think of the cover, Jennifer? You mentioned liking it. Do you have any guesses about the story based on it? What do you like about the cover?
I'm realizing now, I'm not reading Shadow of the Sith. I'm reading Lords of the Sith, which
Oh yeah.
therein lies the problem, as I can't even keep track of them. They're very different, different. I'm
Hmm.
sure
Good
Adam
job.
Christopher's great, different
Yes, he
author.
is. He is.
The cover, I don't know. I don't know. Is it about his conflict? Does he feel any guilt, any turmoil about who he's become? Yeah, I don't know. I really like the cover though. I think it's very
Mm.
terrifying looking.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love there's so much great Star Wars art, but I don't feel like a ton of it that is officially put out by Disney is more is as surreal as this.
Mm.
Hmm.
I mean, there's a ton of great art, but it usually in different styles, but it usually lands still towards being somewhat representational.
Mm.
And this is just like full on surreal, right? That's Anakin's face is kind of peeking through. There's the weird tendrils of shadow. Like it's not. I don't look at that cover and go, "Oh, that's literal. That's what Vader's going to look like when he looks into the Never Glass or whatever." It doesn't look literal. It looks like this
Mm.
is what it feels. This is evoking what it feels like to be Vader. You're
Mm.
trying to be just the mask, but this
Right.
Anakin part of you keeps peeking out, and there are things growing in and out of you. Are you controlling the dark side, or is it controlling you? That's all the things that the image makes me feel
Mm.
without being literal. And so it excites me that it might be kind of wrestling with some of
Mm.
those real deep things, not just like the literal canon of like, does he
Mhm.
find a ancient Sith artifact that allows him to do what Momin did, like getting away from some of the literal to just like the deep down, like
Mm.
why would a man like Anakin want to control life and death, and what is he giving up to do it? And
Yeah.
yeah, it looks soulful. Ken?
Yeah, artist Simon Goenard, and this is I saw a post. This is like an older image. One of our friends of the show, Rick Villanueva, had it as his profile picture for a while.
Hmm.
And it's effective. It was effective as a profile picture. I think it's really effective as a title or a cover. For me, it's that eye. It's that eye of Anakin poking out, and what that means. And I'm with you. I mean, from a quick glance, it does. He looks like he's from Pirates of the Caribbean a little bit. Like we've got some tentacles growing out, some vines,
Yeah.
maybe even. I don't know, a lot going on. But it's for a story about Darth Vader. This is a pitch perfect cover for me. It really works. Haunting.
Awesome.
Yeah, there's something organic about it, but it's not
Hmm.
human-like, which is what makes it so
Yes.
terrifying. I see the Davy Jones-ness
Yeah.
you're talking
Thank
about.
you. Thank you. I was just going to say Bill Nye, but yeah, but David Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So moving on, there's several other books that I'd love to chat about. There is also 2 Acolyte books announced: a visual guide by Pablo Hidalgo and an art of book by Kristen Baver, with a foreword by Leslie Headland. Jennifer, are you excited? Are these books bittersweet? Do you think they could kind of help for advocating for continuing the Acolyte story in some way?
I don't have hope anymore for that, but I do love the visual guides. I reference them a lot, as you guys have seen on our Star
Yeah.
Wars ranked episodes. I just love diving into the minutia, but it is bittersweet because so much love and care was put into this show, and so many great characters that I want to see more of. And it's kind of sad. I just think it's a matter of timing, and obviously everything else that happened with the show. But I think it really does come down to money. So it is what it is. Got to move on.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think these books were probably already in the pipeline, but as we've
Hmm.
seen before, like with some of the Mandalorian books like this being announced and then pulled, which I continue to think it is just Favreau wanting to keep his options open and not wanting to be backed in by a bit of text.
Mm.
Is that's a total opinion with nothing to support it, just an opinion, a theory.
Mm.
But my point being that Lucasfilm has pulled the plug on these kind of books before, and they could have after they canceled Acolyte. It seems to me that they are aware that, well, maybe we can't. We're saying we can't financially justify a second season, but we are aware that there are a lot of fans enough that we think we'll make money on these books, and that gives me a tiny glimmer of hope. Ken, what are your thoughts on the Acolyte books?
It could potentially really painful for those completely moved and in love with the show, as you are, Jen. You're so not alone, and as a fan of the show myself, I can understand if this is salt on a wound, but also I think it over time will be two books that will really allow people to fall back into the world that this series started to create, and you'll learn things and you'll get to kind of relive it and then get to rewatch the show with those new eyes when you have those little bits of Pabloisms on a little descriptor, or just the art to see what the artists had in mind. And you're right, Jen, the amount of work and love and care and attention that went into this show, that goes into all the Star Wars shows, will be on display. So hopefully it will be something that can be on the shelf and celebrate those memories, even if they're painful.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of the visual dictionary or the art of books, which the art of books often contain a lot of actual ideas about the show and discussions of where specific ideas came from. So there is, in theory, a decent amount to learn from these books. Jennifer, what would you be hoping to learn from either of these?
I'm excited. Kristen Baver wrote the Art of Star Wars: The Acolyte book. She's a fantastic writer, former editor of mine at Lucasfilm. So yeah, I always love the behind the scenes of how a character evolves, right? You look at the evolution of Yoda and how that character evolved, or any of our favorites, Asajj Ventress, right? So for me, hopefully I would get an inside look of seeing the evolution of Basil. That's what I want to see. The evolution of Basil.
Strangely, Basil's where my mind goes too. I feel like there were moments where like they were trying to do the Star Wars tradition of a fun, lovable comic relief character, but then he made some chaotic, violent, destructive choices.
Yes.
And that's certainly like the art of might have the development of like, hey, yeah, what's the thoughts behind this character? How did the character evolve? But Pablo Hidalgo is often very cheeky, and I think knows that that's kind of a running thread with even fans of the Acolyte of what's Basil's deal. So I wouldn't be surprised if the visual dictionary has some like, and here's this bump on his neck. That's the thyroid that regulates his chaos instincts or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Ken, what are you hoping to learn?
I saw Basil on a toy rack this past weekend at a store, and he immediately pulled my eyes in. Just immediately was like, I got him. Why did he pull those wires? So that, with forward by Leslie Headland, who, understandably we have not heard from officially since the news. This would not count, probably written before that. But, just to get a little bit more of her takes, I've always loved listening to her talk about Star Wars and read her comments about Star Wars. So I think that'll be just to see a little bit more of what brought her to the project and what she wanted in the project. Are we going to get a little more through the art? Just what could we learn about Mother Anastasia and some of the things around her complicated past and decisions? A lot of that will be what I'm looking forward to finding out.
I would really love to know more about the Coven and the Ascension. I think the show really made a choice to only sort of hint at it, so you could kind of come up with your for yourself. Judging the actions taken by both the Jedi and the Coven. But man, would I love to learn more about the Coven and the Ascension and Mother Anastasia and all that. So, several other books happening as well. There's a comprehensive book celebrating the cinematic legacy of Doug Chiang, an updated edition of Star Wars Women of the Galaxy, an updated Blueprints book, a kids book for Halloween. Jennifer, what in there is exciting to you and why?
I've got a bone to pick with the kids' book for Halloween. I I'm serious. I
Love
love
it.
Jeffrey Brown's art. I have all of his books. I have multiple copies that have been gifted to me of, Vader's Little Princess and such. I wish that this book had a story. I mean,
Mm,
okay, you don't want to give me words. We could do a wordless picture book, and that's a great exercise for kids to come up with their story, but it
Mm,
needs to have something, because I'm like, what is this? If I give this to my kid, it's like greeting cards. Do you tear them out? Like, I just feel like it's a missed opportunity. Chewie and the
mm.
Porgs is one of my favorite books. I've read it. I've given it to other people. They love it. I just feel like there could be more books like this, and I love his art. My kids love his art.
mm,
Give us, like, I don't know, give us a story.
mm. Give us a story. Just
Give
a
us a story.
story.
Come on.
Give us a
It's
story.
such great. I wanted to see the story about Darth Vader, like, trick or treating or having trick or treaters come over. Like, how fun would that be?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sly Moore shows up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there we go.
Great. Be great. Ken, are you excited, or do you have any bones to pick?
I do now. I'm gonna. Yeah, I find your lack of story disturbing. No. A lot of the blueprints is fascinating. Pablo getting to continue and expand on the work of J.W. Rinsler is definitely something I'd be interested in picking up. That Doug Chiang book, just celebrating an absolute legend. I have the first Star Wars Women in the Galaxy book and absolutely love it. Perfect coffee table book, so an update makes a lot of sense. So just these are, as much as I love the novels and the comics and new stories. Sorry, Jen. I do love really spending time inside the galaxy via these kind of books. It's even as I consider paring down some of my collection and everything, these kind of books, I'm holding on. I'll be buried with them. So just having them around is going to be fun.
Mhm.
Yeah. I love seeing Doug Chiang being celebrated at that same level as Ralph McQuarrie was for years. I mean,
Yep.
arguably, he has been far more involved even
Yep.
than the phenomenal work of Ralph McQuarrie.
Mhm.
So just going back to those grumpy days of 1999 when young Gen X didn't like anything,
Right.
to see this man who took a little guff back then be so loved and so celebrated is wonderful. Yeah, and the Women of the Galaxy expansion is great, man. Star Wars has done a great job of adding lots of amazing characters in the last few years. When they kind of rattled off the list of characters who are new since the last edition,
Yeah,
it was really, really cool. So I'm very excited for that.
indeed.
Ken, any hopes for other publishing announcements at Star Wars Celebration?
Yeah, I'm looking towards the idea of what the next big thing is. The ideas of the High Republic wrapping up and the phases coming to an end and everything. It's been a long, successful run with those, and I think that is a template for what can work. Whether it's a continuation of the High Republic or whether it's another corner of that era, I really want to see something beyond just the trickle of stories here. Those are always fun. Adam Christopher's book's going to be great, but I want the next big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Jennifer, I know you don't have as much time. We all are challenged for reading time, but is there anything else you're looking for in publishing announcements at Celebration?
Yeah, I'm wondering what their push is going to be for Mando and Grogu next year. Will we get any announcements around that? Maybe that's where our kids' books are going to come. I don't know. I'm holding out hope. I always like that people get to enjoy these stories, books that I don't get to read, but I'm like, give the people what they want. More books.
And Vader
Mando
trick or
and Grogu
treating.
was great. Yeah, that's. I would imagine they at least reveal a novelization.
Yeah.
At different levels. That would be really, really cool. I would love an announcement of sort of what's next for the High Republic. And in a way, I don't need another big phase right away. What I'd be interested in is, now that we've so established these characters, these eras, here's 3 random books. Here's just an adventure that Reith Silas has. Here's just, an adventure that this character has. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, you've established them. They're always going to be there, right? So now we get to have fun with them in other ways too. Like, here, you show up here, you show up here. I like that idea.
Now they're action figures in the toy box the same way. Like, hey, here's a Han Solo novel.
Yep.
Here's a Loden Greatstorm novel. Just cuz, for fun. Enjoy.
Just cause.
Yeah, not necessarily a part of a big initiative. Well, that is it. That's a look at horror and publishing.
Horror publishing indeed. Big news next week. Like I said, we'll be live on Monday, April 21st, 12 our time, to talk about all the news coming out of Star Wars Celebration. Stay with us as we try to update, keep up with things during Star Wars Celebration itself. Saturday is my birthday, so I might be doing some things, but also probably not a lot. Let's just be honest. Probably sitting playing Fortnite. So we'll be talking about some Star Wars news all through the week. You can keep up to date with us at ForceCenter Pod on social media, especially Blue Sky. We have our podcasts out there for all of you. Don't forget to check out our Databank Brawl episodes, podcasts only. We re-released them, the whole series. We're working our way through it in the mid-60s now. I think we have the big Order 66 special coming up soon. Go back and relive those on our podcast feed. Merch available at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter and on our Fourth Wall shop. Links down below. You can support us directly. We'd love to have you there on Patreon at patreon.com/ForceCenter. And speaking of like up to the second updates in our Discord, which you access via Patreon, we have a news section, we have a celebration section, and our wonderful Force Center friends are there talking about things in real time. Follow me at Knapsack and knapsack.com for more, including my live show, The Blathering. We're having a lot of fun over there, just talking about news, social issues, politics, pineapple on pizza, the important things. Follow me there. Jen, where can they find and follow you?
You can follow TCM, their TikTok. Okay. I'm going to make an announcement. I don't know if I can say this, but if you've made it this far, you got to hear it. I'm going to be hosting TCM's TikTok Live. We're going to be on the red carpet for the Empire Strikes Back screening where George Lucas will be in appearance. Will we get to talk to him? I don't know. I'm not putting any promises out there, but he'll be there. Maybe he'll walk by. It's going to be so exciting. Please join us there. TCM's TikTok. If you still have TikTok on your phone. I think you can still download it. I don't know anymore.
I have it.
You have it? Okay, good.
Yeah,
so join me there. It's next Thursday, the 24th, April 24th.
Nice.
Now, Jen, I don't want you to get in trouble or, lose a gig. But if you have George on the red carpet, you now know to ask him about his daring passing maneuver in the 2007 Toyota Pro Celebrity Race.
Can you imagine if that's like my one question I gotta ask him? Oh, no.
You gotta ask him about like Sabaros and Howard the Duck. Just totally far away from Star Wars. That'd be amazing.
No.
Amazing.
Oh,
That's great. That's great. You can find it and follow me on old Blue Sky and check out my website, josephscrimshaw.com, for links to my blog, Finish Your Monsters, and updates on the film I'm working on. If you're watching the YouTube video, I apologize for I've been trying not to yawn. I'm more tired than I realized from staying up until 2 a.m. editing a horror movie where I listen to an actor do just wonderful screams for about 4 hours straight while I edited that scene. So anyway, I'm excited for Star Wars horror. That's it for me, Ken.
That's it for Joseph. And go take a nap. But we'll see you all soon. That is our episode of Force Center News. Bye.